የጉዞዬ እቅድ በጋዜጠኝነት ዕውቀቴ የማውቀውን ለማሳወቅ እንዲሁም ለመማር ነው የምትለው ወጣቷ ጋዜጠኛ ሔርሜላ አረጋዊ እውነቱን ለማወቅ ፈልጋ በእውነት ለእውነት ተጠልፋ የቀረች ውብ ኢትዮጵያዊት በጉራማይሌ ቋንቋ በፈገግታ በታጀበ አሁንም እና ዛሬ ትምህርት የሚሆን ነገር በሰጠችው ጋዜጣዊ መግለጫ አብራርታለች። እዚሁ ላይ የተጠቀሰው ስለ አገዋ ነበር። ምንም እንኳን አገዋ አድዋ አይደለም በሚል ቦታ ባይሰጠውም አዎ ስለ አገዋ ካነሳን ይልቅስ ነፃ አገልግሎት የሚሰጥ ፕላትፎርም አዘጋጅተን ከአገዋ ይገኝ የነበረውን የሚያስንቅ ገቢ ያስገኛልና በዚህ አጋጣሚ ይህንን ፕሮግራም ያዘጋጀውና ወደ ሀገር ውስጥ እንድትገባ መንገዱን ያመቻቸላት አቶ ቴዎድሮስ ካሽጎን አንስቶ መረጃ ይሰጡናል። ከውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስትርም ስለ ሔርሜላ አረጋዊ የሚሉት ይደመጣል። ወጣት ኢትዮጵያውያን ጋዜጠኞች ጥያቄና መልስ ያካሂዳሉ ከሔርሜላ ጋር። ሌላ ምን ቀረ? የቀረው ምን እንበለው መሰሎ? ላይክ፣ ሰብስክራይብ እና ሼር እያደረጉ የሔርሜላን የዕለቱን አጠቃላይ ገለጻ ያዳምጡ ነው። መልካም ቆይታ። ኢትዮጵያን ዊንዶ ሚዲያ ኔትወርክ ኢትዮጵያን ዊንዶ ሚዲያ ኔትወርክ ብለው በፌስቡክ ገጻችንና በዩቲዩብ ቻናላችን ይከታተሉ። አስተያየት ውስጥ
እንግዲህ እኔ ምክንያት ሆኜ ወደ ሀገሯ ከረጅም ጊዜ በኋላ ታዋቂዋ ጋዜጠኛ ሔርሜላ እንድትመጣ ፍሎሩን ለማመቻቸት መቻሌ በጣም ደስተኛ ነኝ። ብዙ ለሀገሯ ልትሰራበት የምትችለው ፖቴንሻል እንዳላት ስለማየው፣ ስለማቀው፣ ስለምከታተላት እውነታዋን ነገር ደግሞ ሀገሯ ብዙ ቻሌንጅ አልፈው በኢንተርናሽናል ሚዲያው ላይ እውቅና ያገኙ ሰዎችን ባለመኖራችን ብዙ ኢትዮጵያ ተጎድታለች ብዬ እላለሁ። እውነታን መናገር ያልቻልንበት ሁኔታ ተፈጥሮ ነበረ ሀገራችን በቅርብ ባሳለፈችው ሁኔታዎች ላይ። ከእንግዲህ ወዲህ ግን መጀመሪያ ከነበረው ስህተት ተምረን በእሷ ደረጃ ያሉ እውነትን የሚናገሩ ጋዜጠኞችን ከየትኛውም ዓለማት ወይም ከየትኛውም አጥናፋት ላይ ሰብስበን የሚናገር እውነትን የሚናገር ሚዲያ ለመፍጠር እንሞክራለን። እንግዲህ ማየት ማመን ነው። ሰላም መሆኑን ሔርሜላ መታ በአካል አይተዋለች። የተኋላችን ደግሞ ያስቀመጥነው ሞቶ የሚታየው ኢትዮጵያን ይከፍታል ብለን የምናስበው ፕላትፎርም ካሽጎ ነው። ኢትዮጵያ ለረጅም ዓመታት ራችን በአመት እስከ $1 ቢሊዮን ድረስ በኮሚሽን እዛው ውጭ ሀገር ይቀርብናል። እኛ የምናወራው ብዙ ጊዜ ስለ አገዋ ነው። ከአገዋ የበለጠው ግን ላለፉት 30 ዓመት ኢትዮጵያ በከፍተኛ ደረጃ ሰፈር እያደረገችበት ያለው በሪሚታንስ ላይ ያለው ክፍተት ነው። አሁን በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ከቪዛና ከማስተር ካርድ ጋር በመተባበር ነፃ አገልግሎት የሚሰጥ ፕላትፎርም ዘርግተን ላለፉት 5 ወራት አካባቢ በሚሊዮን ዶላር ወደ ሀገራችን ማስገባት ጀምረናል። በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ከ35 እስከ 50 ሺህ ዩዘር ላይ ደርሰናል። ስለዚህ ዛሬ ኢትዮጵያዊ ወደ ሀገሩ ገንዘብ መላክ ከፈለገ እንደ ዋትስአፕ እንደ ቴሌግራም ሁሉ ካሽጎን ዳውንሎድ አድርጎታል። በማንኛውም ሰዓት $5 ጀምሮ በሰከንድ ውስጥ ለፈለገው ቤተሰቡ ወይም ለሀገሩ መርዳት የሚችልበት ፕላትፎርም ስላለው ከዚህ ቀደም እንደሚያወጣው ብዙ ገንዘብ ለሪሚታንስ ካምፓኒዎች ማውጣት አይጠበቅበትም። ሀገሩም ልቡም እዚህ እንደሆነ ሁሉ አሁን ደግሞ በእጁ ላይ ሀገሩ መድረሻ ፕላትፎርም ሰርተን ሰጥተናል። ብዙም ከዚህ ጋር ሪሌትድ የሆነ ነገር ነው። ስለዚህ ሜንሽን ያደረግነው የሆነ ሆኖ ሔርሜላ እንግዲህ ጉዞዋን ጨርሳ ወደ ሀገሯ ከመመለሷ በፊት ምን ልታስተምረን ይገባል የሚለውን ነገር እንድታውቁን ይህንን መድረክ እንዲዘጋጅ ከውጭ ጉዳይ ስለነበራት ስለ አክብራ ስለመጣች አመሰግናታለሁ። ከልቤ አመሰግናታለሁ። ለወደፊቱም ደግሞ ሀገሯ መታ ማንኛውንም ለማድረግ ማንኛውንም ስራ ለመስራት ላላት ሐሳብ አንድ ወንድም እንዳላትና ከጎኗ እንደምቆም በእናንተ ፊት ቃል ለመግባት ፈልጋለሁ። አመሰግናለሁ።
እናመሰግናለን አቶ ቴዎድሮስ። ምናልባት ቅድም የውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስቴርን ጠቅሰዋል። ከሄርሜላ መምጣት ጋር አብረው በደንብ ቅርበት ሲሰሩ የነበሩ የውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስቴር መንግስት ኢንቮልቭ አድርጎ ነውና ከውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስቴር ደግሞ ኃይሌን ያብዙዋችሁ ስለምታውቁት ከውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስቴር ወገን ሆኖ እንደ አንድ ሁለት ቃል እንዲለን ከወዲሁ ወደ ዋናው ጥያቄና መልስ አንገባ ኃይሌን ልጋብዘው። አመሰግናለሁ።
እሺ እጅግ በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። ያው አብዛኛውን ነገር አቶ ቴዎድሮስ ብለውታልና እኔም መጀመሪያ ከመጣች ጊዜ ጀምሮ በቀበላውም ከዛ በኋላም በነበረው ሂደት አብረን ነበረ። እንደ ውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስቴር ከፍተኛ የስራ ኃላፊዎችም ጭምር ደስ ብሎን ነበር የተቀበልነው። ጋዜጠኛ ሆኖ እንዳሳለፈ ሰው ደግሞ ሀገሯን በችግር ጊዜ ለማገልገል የተነሳች ቆራጥ ጋዜጠኛን ማግኘት ለኔ ትልቅ ልብን የሚነካና ደስ የሚል ነገር ያየውበት ስለሆነ እጅግ በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል። ከዛ በኋላ እንግዲህ የሄርሜላ ወደ ኢትዮጵያ መምጣት በብዙ ረገድ ብዙ ነገሮችን የቀየረ ነው። ለምሳሌ በርካታ ወጣቶች የተሳተፉበት ቦታ ላይ ሄዳ ልምዷን አጋርታለች፣ ከብዙ ሰዎች ጋር ተገናኝታለች። በቀጣይ ደግሞ የኢትዮጵያን ብሔራዊ ጥቅምና ሀገራዊ ክብርን በሚያስጠብቅ መልኩ እንዴት መስራት ይቻላል የሚለውን ነገር ከብዙ ልጆች ጋር ሆና ተነጋግራለች። እንዲሁም ደግሞ ያው ኢትዮጵያ ያልተገባ ዓለም አቀፍ ጫና እየተደረገባት መምጣቱን ተከትሎ ኢኮኖሚያችን በከፍተኛ ሁኔታ እንቅስቃሴው ትንሽ ኩርፊያ የታየበት በመሆኑ ይሄንን ኢኮኖሚ እንዴት ማነቃቃት ይቻላል በሚባለው ዙሪያ ላይ የተለያዩ የኢኮኖሚ ውጤት ቦታዎች ጋር ሄዳ ሰራተኞችን፣ ባለሀብቶችን፣ ኢንቨስተሮችን በደንብ አነቃቅታልናለች። ከዚህ በኋላም ኤክስፖርት ኦሪየንትድ የሆኑ ፕሮዳክቶች እንዴት በከፍተኛ ሁኔታ ለዓለም አደባባይ ወይም ለዓለም ገበያ በቅተው ኢትዮጵያ ማግኘት ያለባትን ነገር በኢኮኖሚው ረገድ እንዴት ነው ማግኘት ያለባት የሚለውን ነገር ተገናኝታ ተነጋግራለች። ማገዝ የምትችለውን ነገር ለማገዝም ጭምር ቃል የገባችበት ነውና በብዙ መልኩ ሲለካ የሄርሜላ ወደ ሀገር ውስጥ መምጣት ብዙ ነገሮችን እንደ ሀገር የሚያተረፍንበት ነው። ከአሁን በኋላም ደግሞ ለምናገኛቸው ሀገራዊ ክብርን ብሔራዊ ጥቅምን በብዙ መልኩ ትልቅ የሆነ ማስተማመኛ ነገር የተሰጠበትም ስለሆነ ሄርሜላ እሷ ትዝብቷን ያው ተንቀሳቅሳ የተለያዩ አካባቢዎች ጋር ሄዳለች። ፈተናው ካሁን በኋላ ይቀጥላል። የኢትዮጵያ ብሔራዊ ጥቅምን የሚጋፋ ነገሮች በብዙ መልኩ ለእናንተ የሚነገር አይደለም። ከአባይ ጉዳይ ጋር የተያያዙ ብዙ ነገሮች አሉብን። በጋራ የምንዘምትባቸው ዓለም አቀፍ የዘመቻ አውዶች ከፊታችን አሉና ካሁን በኋላ የምንሰራቸው ነገሮች እሷም ለሀገሯ ማበረከት ያለባት ነገሮች የቤት ስራዎችም ጭምር ብዙ ነው። ብዙ እዳ ተሸክማ ነው የምትሄደውና ብዙ ነገሮችን ስላየች በኋላ ትነግረናለች። ሌላውና ትልቁ ነገር ደግሞ የቴዲን የምጋራው እሷም ቃል ገብታለን እንድንሄድ የምፈልገው ነገር ኢትዮጵያ ጥቅሟን ልታስከብርበት የምትችልና በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ልትወዳደርበት የሚችል ጠንካራ የሆነ ያለችበትን ቀጠና የሚወክል ጠንካራ የሆነ ዓለም አቀፍ ሚዲያ ያስፈልጋታል። ባለሀብቶች እየተነሱ ነው የሚገኙትና እንደዚህ አይነት ሀሳብ ይዞ የመጡ ሰዎችን በምትችለው ነገር ሁሉ ትደግፋለች ብዬ አስባለሁ። እርግጠኛም ነኝ ደግሞ ምክንያቱም ሀገር ወዳድነቷን በችግር ጊዜ በፈተና ጊዜ ስላሳየችን ከአሁን በኋላ እንደዚህ አይነት ነገሮች ሲመጡብን ቀድመን ለመከላከል ሳይሆን ቀድመን አጀንዳ ሰጪ ለመሆን እንደዚህ አይነት ጠንካራ ሚዲያ ስለሚያስፈልገን በዛ መልኩ ታግዘናለች። በጥቅሉ ግን እንደ ውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስቴርም በአጠቃላይ እንደ አንድ ወጣትም የተሳካ ጊዜ ነበራት። ከአሁን በኋላ ብዙ ነገር ለሀገሯ ታደርጋለች ብዬ አስባለሁ። መልካም ቆይታ ከሷ ጋር።
ኃይሌ በጣም አመሰግናለሁ። እንግዲህ ሄርሜላን ለማስተዋወቅ ፎም አዲስ አበባ ተወልዳ ነገር ግን በ7 ዓመቷ ነው ወደ ውጭ ሄደችው። ኦክስፎርድ፣ ኤምኤስ፣ ሜምፊስ፣ ቴነሲ የሚባሉ ከተማዎች ኖራለች። ወደ አሜሪካ ሄደችው በ7 ዓመቷ ብቻ ነው። ከኤመርሰን ኮሌጅ ቦስተን በብሮድካስት ጀርናሊዝም የመጀመሪያ ዲግሪ ያላት ፒኤችዲ ዲግሪ ያላት እንግዲህ በጣም በወጣትነት እድሜዋ አሁንም በጣም ወጣት ናት። አንቺ yes እና በወጣትነት እድሜዋ ወደ ሚዲያ ወደ ኢንተርናሽናል ሚዲያው ኤክስፖዠሩን ያገኘችው ኢንክሉዲንግ በኦፕራ ዊንፍሬ ጋር አብሮ በመስራት ሆስት እና ሪፖርተርም በመሆን ከነ ባርባራ ዎልተርስ ጋር አብራ በመስራት ፖለቲካል የሆነ እንትን የላትም። ነገር ግን የሀገሯ ሁኔታ ስታየው ስትከታተለው እውነትን ማግኘት ስትፈልግ ነው ወደዚህ ውስጥ ተስባ ግራጁዋሊ ይሄንን በጣም እጅግ ወሳኝ የሆነ ዓለም አቀፍ ሙቭመንት ልትጀምር ከጓደኞቿ ጋር ልትጀምር የበቃችውና በዚህም ትልቅ ሬኮግኒሽን አግኝታለች። ሶ አሁን ምንድነው you will give us a background of how it all started with the nomore movement and also your trip in Ethiopia the last few weeks how it has been and በአማርኛም በእንግሊዝኛም የቀላቀል I'll leave the floor for you Hermela. Thank you again for coming and joining us here.
Thank you so much. ትክክል ለመሆን ከኦፕራ እና ከባርባራ ዋልተርስ ጋር አልሰራሁም but ሳድግ እነሱ ያየው ነው ያደኩ and ለኔ inspiration ነበሩ just to be clear. Okay. No worries.
I thought I got that from your interview with Elias.
Inspiration
I think
ነበሩ.
yes, that was a misrepresentation.
No problem at all. So thank you so much for that introduction, otherwise very accurate. I just want to first say really thank you to Ato Tedros. He made this whole thing possible, honestly. If somebody did not, reach out to my mom and really made everything very comfortable, I was very comfortable there. I wasn't sure about coming, the security manamen, I just really, if somebody did not say, come on, we've got this covered, somebody didn't say, hey, come on, let's go. Simon, he's studying for some medical exam. But so thank you so much to Ato Tedros. Really, really, it's so generous. So let's so summit security manamen hulum ተዘጋጅቶልኝ ነው የመጣሁት. So that's a big deal ለኔ. So thank you. በጣም ለናሁ ቲቪም just so generous and I really appreciate it. So I think okay, so no more, right? It all started because it really started because the anniversary of the war was coming and this is actually I think a good lesson and ahead of it, a couple of weeks ahead of it, we came together, a few like-minded people, actually several. Nebiyuna Simonsum Bachana Mitara ግን ብዙ አሉ. Wasi Ayu Meron Ahadu ከLA ብዙ አሉ. So for anniversary ይሄ ነው ጊዜያችን ታሪኩን ትክክል ለማድረግ correct ለማድረግ ሌላ the other side but I'm strong እንደሚመጡ አውቃለሁ አይደል? It's a 1-year anniversary hashtag ምናምን genocide below, they're going to come to bring a lot of the same data. So the reason that's important is planning is important. So foreseeing something, so 2-3 weeks ahead, we thought, okay, the anniversary is coming. We have to do something. We came together. We said everything is happening on Twitter, whether we like it or not. You must not anyway. What is going to be the hashtag we use? We thought, okay, Ethiopia facts, Ethiopia truth. And I have to give a lot of credit to Simon. He said, no, do something different. Do something different. Are you sure, Arkuth, are people going to understand if it doesn't have the word Ethiopia in it? He said, yeah, just let's try something different. Other hashtag like bring back our girls or hashtag me too, those don't say the word that they're talking about, but they still did really well. So we had a phone conversation. I'm throwing ideas out. He's throwing ideas out. I said, hashtag no more. Just like that. I remember where I was. I was in my bedroom. So, and it was, because he pushed me. It's really important to try to push each other, to try to think of something different. So we took a chance with no more and it felt right. It worked. And then a lot of work went into it. I mean, graphic artists, writing, researching, just grabbing everything that we had, creating a link tree, teaching myself how to do a link tree. There's just so many things that were new to me. For a lot of people too, they were learning things along the way. You make mistakes, you fix them. And then, you know, what made it possible is everybody jumped on. They said, okay, like signed on. It doesn't matter how amazing your idea is. If people don't work with you, I said, no, right? It doesn't go anywhere. So everybody, no matter their politics, no matter where they're from, Ethiopia and Eritrea, our allies, anti-war allies from Answer Coalition, the Black Alliance for Peace, which is anti-imperialist. Simon had connections with them. Eugene Puryear, which a lot of you probably know from Breakthrough News, really signed on with us. And it was beautiful because I've never seen a protest centered around what's going on in Ethiopia or Eritrea that included non-Ethiopian or Eritreans. And there was something about that that just felt, okay, we're onto something. ብዙ ጊዜ, like, it's a very narrow mind that narrow topic. It's not narrow mind, but narrow topic. And so people say, oh, okay, it's just the Ethiopians talking about Ethiopia or Eritreans talking about Eritrea, like it has nothing to do with us. But I think that why No More was so powerful is it's not just about us. It's about people being able to tell their own stories. It's about the media that we trust and respect. CNN, so CNN still, like, it's like up here, right? People used to say to me, Machino CNN with Gabi, Machino CNN with Gabi. Why? Because it's like considered the top, right? So those kind of places have a big responsibility to try to do it right. And for me, it was something new that they were getting it wrong on Ethiopia, but a lot of different countries have experienced what we've experienced 10, 20 years ago. So No More Simata, there was already so much in people, and it was just immediately some fire sparked. So to me, I'm just like a little bit of the light, and there was already all this other light. It just came together, and then Xavier Malla, so that's, I think, what made it really successful. Are we doing a question and answer, or should I just keep going? I can keep going too.
We were also expecting your mom to be part of this, but unfortunately, I think she's left already.
Yes.
So I heard. But I'd like you to just say a few things about how your mom also inspired you and the role she played in this.
My mom, as I'm sure you guys know, has her own mind. Very, very independent, very, very strong, very, very like really, really, like I can't compete, to be honest, on that level. I'm a little bit of a modern person in that sense, but you know, she went through a lot. She grew up in Tigray at the time where there was war. She was able to get out and go to Addis and finish her schooling there. She was separated from her parents for a long time. During the 17-year war, her father passed away while she was in college, and she didn't see him for years. And I'm sure, Ya Tariq, like, liyu አይደለም ብዙ ሰው እሱን they went through that, right? ያን ጊዜ you can't just travel back and forth. Imagine, የ17 ዓመት ጦርነት. So she knows war really well. She hates it. ብዙ ጊዜ የምትለው, I'm sure አቶ ቴድሮስ knows, መቼ ነው ለጦርነት ማሰማው ነው የምትለው, you know, because her whole life has been like that. So she really loves school, like loves academia. I'm not so academic in that sense. She went from here to Mississippi to get her master's መጀመሪያ just ለሁለት ዓመት ሄዳ ትመለስ ነበረ. That was the plan. And then ከአንድ ዓመት በኋላ እዛ ከቆየች, they encouraged her to do her PhD. That's a 5-year degree. So she said, okay, I'll do it. ግን ልጆቼ መምጣት አለባቸው, ባሌም ያኔ መምጣት አለበት ብላ visa ላከች. So we went, and she finished in Mississippi. እኔ አሁን ሳስበው እንዴት ያደረገችው አላውቅም. Honestly, it's like, how do you get a PhD and raise 2 kids? we had a really good community, international community there, which was, I think, part of my life experience is like I was around people from all over the world just from when I was little. People took care of us when she needed to go to conferences, manamen, all kinds of people like that look all kinds of ways. So I think from the beginning, I understood the race and ethnicity and background just didn't really mean anything. And then she got her postdoc, went all the way up to medicinal researcher, has a drug on the market, and it takes 10 years to really get a drug on the market. So that's a really big deal. So that's kind of her work history. And the whole time, I think the one way I would define kind of her approach, she calls that, she hates externalization. Malet, like, and chigr kalla, like, የሌላ ሰው ችግር አርገ and Nderasimo said, what can I do? Blah, you have to figure out a plan, right? So if we have an issue, we have a choice. We can say, I'm like this, or I don't have money, or I don't have access, or I don't have the capability, I don't have the contacts, minamen. You can find ways to make it somebody else's problem so you don't have to do anything about it. Or you can say, I have to find a way around this. Let's see what I can do. And then ብዙ ጊዜ እንደዛ ስታደርግ, I think እግዚአብሔር ይረዳሃል, and he fills in the gaps, I think. So it's shown that in her life. I try to practice that too, as I get older. And so that's kind of her big thing. The reason that she's here is because she's always said, okay, what can I do about it? She just works really hard, very, very honest. Really like has a good heart, strong. Sometimes it might come off too strong, but really when you see it at the core, it means like it's from the right place. So as I get older, I really see that and appreciate that. So that's kind of her story, and I'm a product of all of hard work.
She has also been a victim.
So, I mean, I call it God. Like if she wasn't there, is that Batanor? Like Al-Gababatam, I don't think so. So she was there. She had faith. She said she wasn't really worried. እግዚአብሔር እዚህ ድረስ አያመጣኝም like for something bad, blah. She just stayed home. She read a lot, she said. Prayed a lot, tried to be, a comfort and something strong for that community there. Tried to make the children feel okay because they were worried, about some of the airplanes flying overhead, and just I don't know. It's just really amazing. It makes sense when I hear that. It makes sense why she survived when she was younger. Because I don't know if I was her in that moment. I don't know if I'd be very inspirational.
Thank you so very much. That's really a very good background and a wider perspective of what she's been going through, including her mom. In fact, Natwa እንደውም እሳቸውም ያልሆነ ነገር ተናገሪ ሲባሉ እንደነበረ ኢንተርቪዋቸውን ያየን ሰዎች ትግራይ ጄኖሳይድ የሚለው ናሬቲቭ እሳቸውም ተቀብለው እንዲያስተጋቡ ሁሉ ሲነገራቸው ኖ አይ ስቲክ ዊዝ ዘ ትሩዝ ብለው የራሳቸውን የእውነት መንገድ የተከተሉ ተምሳሌታዊ እናት ናቸውና እሳቸው እዚህ ባይኖሩም ስለሳቸው ሳናነሳ ብናልፍ አንፌር ነው ብዬ ነው የፕሮፌሰር ሀረገወይን አሰፋን የሄርሜላ እናት ያነሳ ነው። በጣም እናመሰግናለን። አሁን actually I wasn't meant to do a lot of questions here. ለእናንተ ነው እድሉን የምሰጠውና ጥያቄዎቻችሁን አሁን ማንሳት ትችላላችሁ. The mic is ready for you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Muse from Ethiopian News Agency. Once again, good to see you again. My first question is about No More movement. I told you in the training session on Monday, some critics say No More movement has to go beyond the rallies and Twitter campaigns. So what's the next steps for the No More movement in terms of new themes or strategies or goals? And also I saw recently trends in social media platform people using the no more hashtag for current Ethiopian affairs, including the release of the prisoners and other issues. Do you have, can you comment on that? How can you see that? And also, the no more rally supposed to go ahead 3 weeks ago, but it was postponed. Do you have any information this rally still go ahead as planned, or it was cancelled? My second question is, recently in the social media there are a lot of photos circulating. You and mother met with the Prime Minister. If that was the case, could you tell us the talking point? Do you have any meeting with the Prime Minister? What are the discussion points? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We good?
Yeah, sure.
Let's take a few questions.
That was
first.
a lot of questions already.
Okay, so
I'm
it's
gonna
already a
forget
few.
it.
Okay, let's do this,
okay.
and then we'll do in
Yeah,
rounds.
unless somebody's writing this down, I should have brought a pen, I think. So the meeting with the Prime Minister was very brief, so there wasn't really very much we were able to talk about. It was just a quick greeting during the inauguration of the Defense Headquarters. I met him as well as the First Lady. You know, there wasn't that much to talk about, but I will say, I know this sounds really silly, but I had a pin on my dress that fell, on my sleeve that fell, and the First Lady actually bent down to the ground to pick it up. I just thought that was amazing. There are very few people that high up or in those high positions. No way. Most women would just be like, I don't even see that, right? Because for them, like, we're death note, like to go down and pick up something. I think that is amazing. You know, that kind of sort of personality and humility is what's, from that meeting, that's what stood out to me. So I just want to give her a little bit of credit for that. I said it in private to some people, but this is a good opportunity to say it out loud. In terms of the No More movement, so everything has to evolve, right? We have, first of all, we have a website, nomore.global. On there, we have a mission statement that makes it very clear what the mission is about. And, oh, thank you, yeah. Terrible gazetting, I didn't have this. Usually I take notes on my phone, so nowadays. So the website was a big deal for us. It's a good website, actually. It's really hard to get websites done. Henok, I think Gabra's Gab here, maybe, some version of that is who did it. I know him, but his last name escapes me. It's a good website. He's done websites for Walmart and other places, so it has a lot of, you know, parts to it. So I'm proud of that. And the next step is to continue to create content around it. So I think, and this is like, it came from God, somehow the relations between the United States and the Prime Minister's office here has changed, at least on the surface. It is invited that kind of conversation. It's called diplomatic relations. It's really unusual for two major countries to not talk to each other, particularly in such a time of crisis. And so I just want to celebrate that. I think I've talked a little bit about this. We're saying no more to some of these things like Western intervention, war. I cannot wait till this war is over. You know, I know that it started a little bit different, but right? I just don't know what to do. I don't know what any of us can do, right? I think it's going to take some divine intervention and the government coming up with some creative ideas to get those people in Tigray out of this situation. So I don't know how much more we can keep talking about that, the war in terms of no more, because I don't know, I don't have a lot of solutions. I'm talking to a lot of people that have connections to there, with the government, with the diaspora. But I think the conversation has to also move in different directions. Economic development is a big part of it. GERD is really on its way to actually opening. I think as journalists, we should all be paying attention to that. what went into making this happen? How is this going to change the lives of people here? There are probably a million stories we could do around GERD, and we need to start doing it now. Why? As soon as it opens, there's going to be an entire propaganda coming from the outside, from actors that don't want us to have it. So just the way that with No More, we thought, okay, this 1 year anniversary is coming, what can we do? We have to think the same way about, okay, GERD is probably going to open in the near future. What can we do to go on the offensive? We can talk about the people that work in those areas whose lives have been changed by the jobs that have been created. We can talk about what the energy is going to do for the people here. We can talk about how this is going to change the lives of women and mothers, which is something I've heard is important. So that's what I'll say about No More. And then also just kind of connecting with other African stations. So if your station is in English, there's no reason why you shouldn't be connecting with stations or companies in Kenya, Uganda, wherever it may be, Burundi. Let's break those walls. There's no reason. Language is a barrier for sure, right? But if you have an English program, why not reach out? If you have an Arabic program, why not reach out to Arabic programs elsewhere? Otherwise, everyone's in their narrow hole, and then you just don't make connections. The rally. So this is my perspective on the rally. So the first time it was scheduled, if that news about the releases didn't come out, I think the rally would have been fine. But because it came out and the reactions to it were very intense, it no longer made sense to have that rally because we needed to have a conversation about what those releases meant, and it took time. No More did release a statement eventually. It took us, I think, a week and a half. Why? Because we wanted to learn what this meant. There was a lot of pressure. Put out a statement. What do you guys think? I don't know yet. Right? I need to understand what this is. And that's really what we have to do as journalists. The first thing I could do is say, I just recognize people's feelings. I get it. These names are very triggering for some people, some of them, and then others can be concerning about what's to come. But I put out something on Twitter just saying, I understand people's emotions, but let's really challenge ourselves to be calm until we get more information. And then we did get more information. There was a little bit clarity. This was not amnesty. This was a pooling of the cases. If something was to happen, connection with these people and those that were with them that were released, then the system still has the opportunity to open up the cases again. And then, what I noticed about, believe it or not, the releases of, some of the TPLF leaders made some of the young people from Tigray feel something, right? And so if it makes them feel like a little bit of openness to then say, okay, like they recognize us, wow, that's huge, right? To me personally, this is just a personal opinion, whether Sibhat Naga is in or out at this point at his age, it's not going to bring people back. As long as it doesn't hurt more people, as long as there's some sort of security apparatus around that, and as long as it brings young people to, here's what I've realized. We all have egos, right? So you need to give people a reason to relax and come forward. If that's a reason, so be it. I think the same happened, personal opinion, not necessarily more speculation. Same with the United States. I don't think it was because of pressure the prime minister released those, and by the way, it wasn't him, right? It was through that reconciliation group. I don't think that was a U.S. pressure, because what do they care if Sibhat Naga or Jawar, or like, what is that really doing for the United States? It does nothing for their interests. But it looks like Ethiopia is making concessions, and now they can say, because Ethiopia is making concessions, we can change our tone. So it's PR, basically, in my opinion. So that's sort of the stance on some of the releases. Now, the rally, the Tuesday after the rally was scheduled, there was a Pan-African conference that was happening here. And I learned that that conference moved from somewhere else to the Sheraton just for security reasons. To me, I hear that and I say, okay, if that's happening, and then maybe that's connected to the releases or the reaction to the releases, then why would we have a rally at a time where security is a little bit of a concern. It's not worth it. If you have bad actors, that is the perfect time where they'll do something. So even if it's a scare, something little that scared people, the conversation would be dominated by that. And then on top of that, people would say, oh, it's because of these releases that this violence happened, whether it's true or not. Now we're 4 steps back. My personal opinion about rallies, they're not that important. We don't need to do rallies all the time. We did rallies, people showed up, they committed, we made a statement, we used social media to amplify them. Now let's go do some work that's behind the scenes, right? Just because you don't see things happening on social media, it doesn't mean people aren't working. In fact, some of the best work is happening off of social media. So let's see how we can help people in our community. Let's see how we can help people that are poor, that don't have a job, that are sick, and then get that data, get the stories, and then put it out on social media so that you can show people, look, things are happening. Somebody has said, do more. I think hashtag more this is a little bit better, but that's just my opinion. So we just need to go in the direction of development and saying yes to positive things, saying yes to development and unity and collaboration with other countries. And then I think I answered all your questions, right? Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to appreciate your commitment, energy, and passion to stand with the fact in case when the country needs you more and at that critical time. Then
excuse me. Please introduce yourselves whenever you take the mic. All
then
right?
my name is Haptam Ashage from EBC. The first question that I have is, what is your fair comment about the federal government of Ethiopia to manage the current crisis in the northern part of Ethiopia? That's your personal opinion about Sigurd. And the government of Ethiopia is on the way to undertake national consultation at international or at national level. What's your personal comment on this regard?
What was the second question?
The government of Ethiopia is undertaking preparations to make the national dialogue or the national consensus dialogue. What is your personal comment on this regard?
Your first question, I think the Ethiopian government has a huge task. I am not qualified to say whether, I don't know what to do. But what I will say is, I think it is past time, in my opinion, to be talking about TPLF atrocities, because now we have to talk about, okay, but how do we fix it? Because they're not gonna, right? They are committed to dragging the people down with them. And so essentially what we have, in my opinion, is a hostage situation. Now, some of those hostages might buy into the idea, right? So I'm not saying everybody's involuntary. But if anyone's going to fix this crisis, to me, it's the Ethiopian government and the Ethiopian people coming together and coming up with something. And I don't know what that something is. This is such a bad situation, right? There's already so much damage. So I am humbled by how much the Ethiopian government has been able to accomplish. The odds were completely against this country, including the army, including the media propaganda. Whether you believe in God or not, there's some sort of divine intervention here, right? So knowing that and seeing that, I can't sit here and say they don't know what they're doing or I have a better idea, because I don't, right? So what I really hope, and I've heard this from government officials, and I hope to see it through, is people now, no matter what they think, say, we have to figure out how to fix this. As long as you have this region that's under that kind of terror, that's in that situation, I mean, how happy can we really be as a region? It's always going to be in our faces, right? So I just hope the best for everybody that's involved, and I hope they use their wisdom and any capacity that they have. And I think the national reconciliation is a part of that conversation. If people that previously feel like they supported TPLF or they supported the leadership there, if they can be a part of the conversation in a different way, I think that will be a necessary part of undoing this war.
Thank you, Hermela. My name is Bran from Walter FM. I have two questions only. My first question gonna be how the unintentional and unexpected decision made by the government could impact your and the team of hashtag no more role on your strong work to the advance of Ethiopian interests. That's my first question. And my second question is, right now, journalists here who are working in national or local media are working towards on US's and Western's wrongness and magnifying their mistake. But sometimes it is hard and may damage the relation of Ethiopia with other countries internationally. So what is your professional advice for journalists who are working, sometimes I can say it is against others, okay? It may be damage our relationship with others. So what's your personal advice for the media professionals? And thirdly, Haile Mikhail tried to mention the above, and you also, you always been articulating the hashtag no more moments on Western's influence or external powers and pressure on Ethiopia or against Ethiopia. But what about on other topic like a big international agenda? Now it became a big international agenda and a giant development project I'm proud to call the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. That's become both a challenge and also opportunities for us. So to say no more depend on colonial treaty of 1929 and 55. To say no more on using Nile River or water hegemony on Abai River. To say no more on using Nile alone for upstream countries. So what will be your effort for the coming time regarding to Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam? For that matter, in case of GERD and in case of the current situation or crisis in Ethiopia or conflict, the absence of international media organization to be reached for international audiences have been affected us. So how do you see the necessity of international media organization to Ethiopia to counter propaganda warfare? And finally, I would like to ask this question. What things can be considered as a challenge to you and your effort in case of working for national interest? Thank you.
Thank you. I want to start with what you said about GERD. I think you said a lot of interesting things. And Asasabo, yeah, GERD Nagar is the next big no more issue. We cannot let that be what happened with the war, where the narrative comes and then we go on the defensive, right? You brought up the 1929, 1955. I don't know if it's the exact dates, but I know it's around those dates. Let's start talking about that. This should be on mainstream platforms. Let's talk about how much of the water is actually used by GIPS. Let's talk about how much agriculture that they're able to use from that water and we don't use any agriculture. There's so many points of conversation to have there, and we cannot wait to be on the defensive again. That's my personal project too. You know, I'm going to go back and then come while I'm back in the States. That's going to be something I'm working on, and let's all work on it together. You can't have enough stories about that. So data points, you know, just keep it short. You have to think of it like this. You're writing a story to somebody who kind of cares about the world, kind of knows about Ethiopia, but they're not going to read a 2-page article. They're not going to watch a 15-minute video. What they will look at is a graphic with data that can say, this is how much of the Nile is in Ethiopia, and look how much GIPS use, look how much Ethiopia uses. Boom. That's something that everybody can look at. So, you know, I'm not saying the people here are not important in terms of stories, but the international space in this time of crisis is more important. It's more important that they understand what's going on than for us to talk to each other. One thing that kind of annoys me that I just want to say here, if you're on Twitter, don't use so much Amarnya. Like, nobody's reading that. Even us, we're not reading it as much, right? So Twitter is a space where the diaspora are, where a lot of English speakers are, where a lot of non-Ethiopians, non-Eritreans are, where journalists who, let alone read Fidel, like they don't speak the language at all, right? So if you're gonna use Twitter and you're gonna use the Giz letters, like it's a complete waste of time, in my opinion. So just keeping that in mind. In terms of the Western media and how to, navigate it, to me, it's as long as you're being accurate, there's nothing wrong with saying you guys are getting our story wrong. When you start getting it right, we'll be nicer to you, right? There's no reason to have to be super nice. The media, by the way, there, I noticed, is really just doing whatever the government does. Or wants them to do. So now the government's a little bit softer with us, right? So this is a good time to just kind of stop talking about what they're doing wrong and just start actually telling our stories, because the space is there and they might actually pick it up. For example, I did a story with the Associated Press about the impact of the war on the diaspora. I did it, I don't know, mid-December maybe? Why? Because the US government's tone has changed. So they sat on it for 1 month, and then now I think it would be counter what the narrative was at the time. Now it's okay. So let's just use this opportunity, I think, to just tell your stories. Just little data. Data is important. We should all be curious. Like, I went to the industrial park yesterday, the Bole Lemi. I wanted to know, like, how many people work here? How much do they get paid? Oh, most of them are women. Oh, there's dormitories here. How many people live in the dormitories? Oh, 2,100. From this one South Korean company. We talked to some people there. So, ini desilenga data sinoring. Now I can go back and tell my friends, like, oh, there's this place that has 20,000 workers. They have dormitories for people. That means they don't have to travel from different places. So ሁላችን curious መሆን አለብን. ትንንሽ data ቢመስልም, it's better than real data is better than a lot of unsure information. A lot of the times we want to talk big picture, but we don't know the small details. So I am nenem, because we don't know the little stuff. A lot of journalism is about what seems like the little stuff, but at least you know it like a journalist. እርግጠኛ ሆነን ይሄ ነው ደሞዛቸው ብለን, like we can actually say that as journalists. I think that's, and then in terms of the challenge, for me, I'm here to learn. This trip was about ይሄ ጉዞ ለእኔ ለመማር ብቻ ነው። ለመማር እና እኔ ማውቀው በጋዜጠኛ እውቀቴ ማሳለፍ ለእናንተ ለሚፈልገው ሰው. So to me, there's going to be a lot of time I spend just learning before I do too many big stories. በተለይ politics ይቅርብኝ አሁን. It's too complicated. So, I just want to do like the industrial park and the arts ያለበት እዚህ. There's somebody that I met, የhomeless shelter የሰራበት. Just now 2,000 people have come in that were homeless before. አንዳንዶቹ like ትንሽ like drug addiction ምናምን ኖራቸው መቄዶንያ ሳይሆን አዲስ ነው. Yeah, a little bit. መቄዶንያ አውቃለሁ, yeah. It's an old one. So those kind of things are interesting to me because they're not controversial. I only በአጋጣሚ ነው politics ውስጥ የገባሁት. It wasn't so much for the politics, it was the way the journalism was messing with the politics. And it took me a long time to be sure about how that was happening. And so it's going to take me a long time to be sure about anything else new with the politics here. People ask me, why don't you say something about what's happening here, what's happening here? Because I'm not sure enough. Like, I need time to be sure enough, because whatever I say is going to be a big deal, right? So I'll leave it to the political experts, and I just want to do those smaller stories when I come back. Thank you.
Hello, this is Hanan from Buku Media. I just want, it's not actually a question, but I saw a website that was released 2 or 3 days before. I tried to share it with my contacts, but I don't get the details about that, and I don't think many people know about that in detail. So just can you explain about the website and on how we can help or we can participate on that in order just to go with the no more movement.
Thank you. You mean the No More website?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
shit. I know. We haven't done a good job on promoting it. We did have a clubhouse discussion a couple of days ago at 9:00 p.m. our time. I think it was maybe Wednesday. You know, we're still building it. What we want eventually is to have other people's content be on there, but it's going to take time to make sure we have the right partners. We don't want to present ideas that are too counter to what we're doing, although diverse ideas are important. Ganano, like there's really not much to really say about the website yet. It's a work in progress. There are articles there. The biggest thing Bahonsat is, since there's so much Twitter censorship, Twitter Kahedku, you'll find me on the website, right? Simon and Nebiu are both off Twitter, so you'll be able to see what they have to say on the website. We will have a chat forum. We'll have an email listserv. That was the biggest thing we saw. I'm surprised I'm not shut down. I think it's because I have the blue check mark. It's a little harder to take me down. But the censorship was very aggressive, very, very aggressive. The reason that Simon was taken off Twitter still makes no sense. And then Nebiu, they just reached whatever reason they could find and then still makes no sense. So the biggest thing was just to make sure that we can have our own space and we don't get separated if somebody gets censored. So thank you. It's a good question.
Language barrier እንዳይሆንብን, by the way, she's a perfect listener of Amharic, so she can understand. ስለዚህ በአማርኛም መጠየቅ ትችላላችሁ። እሺ
Thank you. I'm Ambo from Oben. First, great to have you here and welcome home. And I would like to thank Mr. Tedros for bringing you home. And I do have a couple of questions for you. First, no more movement able to awake black race all over the world in about, neo-colonialism, about anti-pressure, intervention in Ethiopia as well as, Africa as a continent. And you did a great job out there. And what would be the next step of your number? I mean, that just could be about the development, working together, and others. Because just we do have a rich continent in everything. So what would be the next step of the number movement? And my second question is about institutions. As you know, a strong institution is what behind success of developed nations around the world, and what is the reason of the failed states in the world is just due to their vicious institutions, and what has to be there so as to have strong institutions in Ethiopia so as to bring sustainable development in the country. And my third question is just, Ethiopia is a nation with more than 115 population, but just we don't have a big international media in the country that could tell the international community in the language that they could understand about the country. And what do you suggest from your rich experience? Thank you.
Thank you. I guess the international media part is sort of my part, I think, in so many ways. But you know what? It doesn't matter if I start one. We all need to be a part of it. You guys have content that I'm not going to have. We're going to be collaborating. We're going to show up at the same press conferences eventually. So that's in the works. That's part of why I'm just leaving, because I need the time to really focus and plan that out, and then make sure that whatever investments or collaborations I have, I still have the editorial independence. ብዙ ጊዜ corporate media ሲባል, it's because so many people invested their money and now they want to tell you what stories to tell and not tell. So for me to counter corporate media, I can't have another corporate media. Right? So I'm trying to figure out how to stay independent, how to get the right people. But in the meantime, you guys are already established. So just switching up the ways you're telling some of the stories, keeping like the international media in mind. In terms of institutions, I think for the long-term sustainability of this country, absolutely our institutions have to be reformed. you may like the prime minister now, but if the institutions aren't right, the next person may not be so good, and then you've got a lot of problems. A lot of what this, I think the way this country runs is, what's the right way to say it? There is not the same checks and balances. Like the United States, you have the House and the Senate. It takes forever to get anything done, but it's also really hard to undo the country overnight. Right, so we need something like that where it's, more of a balanced parliament, and then judicial institutions and all of that. But I think right now is a really tricky time to talk about it because we're literally in the middle of a war. In the middle of a war, even the U.S. doesn't follow the same orders. The president can make decisions very quickly for the sake of the security of the country and things like that. So I think institutions, educational, health institutions, the political institutions all have to move into the direction of having checks and balances, being well run, not being corrupt, so that the next generation doesn't have to deal with what we dealt with this sudden turn of the country, just the way that our parents dealt with the sudden turn of the country. In terms of next steps with No More, one thing that we want to do is have a declaration list, meaning like, what do we stand for? Like having just really bullet points. 1, like unity, what does that mean? Like 2, Pan-Africanism, what does that mean? 3, anti-Western intervention, what does that mean? And so we are all working on it. Part of the reason, again, I'm going back is because they're like, hello, like, what are you doing out there? Like, we're not, I'm not as involved with No More at the moment because I'm here meeting people, going different places. So when I go back, we'll really be having long meetings, and, the time zone is also really difficult. So once we have those declarations written down, then we can say, hey, if you meet these requirements, we'll support you. We don't have to do the project or the campaign. But until we know exactly what the criteria is, it's hard. Like, I want to support other people. There are other people in the Ethiopian community and the Eritrean community and other African communities that are, Mali's got a lot going on right now. I want to support that under No More, but it takes time to study it, and we have to have a meeting about, like, so what are you guys really doing? Because it's really easy to think it's a No More movement, but it's like the opposite. So I don't want to accidentally support the wrong thing. This just has to be really written out. It was just like, let's just do it. It happened on social media. Because like, companies are not established like that. First, you have a mission, then a vision, then, the different values, the structure. We did it backwards. So just be patient with us. Once that structure is in place, there will be so much more decentralization that is possible without losing the value of No More.
Well, there are lots and lots of loose ends that we have to really deal with as we get along. Like you said, it's a war situation. There is one way, one direction to focus at the moment, but institutions are ongoing processes, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Anyway, next. Okay, you help me.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ibel Tarsonas from Now TV. Nice to meet you. To see you again. Okay, my first question is, as we all know, most of the international media have been reporting fabricated and unbalanced news on the situation of Ethiopia. I like that you have been struggling on behalf of the truth, and you have been exposing the atrocities committed by the terrorist TPLF and its allies. How do you feel the gap between the media organization you are working for and your profession? How do you maintain your profession neutrally? Just I wanted to know the challenges you have passed through. And my second question is, can you say that the international media practitioners are not well informed about what's going on here in Ethiopia? Why they are giving a deaf ear to the suffering of civilians? What's the reason behind it? Just I want to know that. And the third question is, what should be taken as a solution in order to counter or in order to tackle the pressure of the international medias? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with the point about objectivity. objectivity is always a work in progress. You know, you have to evolve with the different information that you're getting. We're all can only be as objective as we can. I don't believe there's like a hard objective line on most things. I think that, you know, when you're sort of looking at big picture, it's not always, you know, most things are not like the TPLF story, meaning you don't get almost 30 years of data, 30 years of one entity being in power. Most things are not going to be that black and white. Assume black and white bihonim bahonsat, there's a little bit of a lot of gray area stuff happening, right? Meaning, okay, we can keep focusing on what they have been doing and did, but really the newest topic is how do we fix it, right? Or what exactly is causing some of the suffering there now? So I know there's some stuff happening in Abala that's actually straining the humanitarian access. The humanitarian aid trucks, I mean, they just take them and then nobody says anything. It's like insane to me, right? And then people think it's no big deal, it's trucks. No, it's literally how things get there, right? The plane is not gonna carry as much cargo as all these trucks. So to be just, to advance the conversation, just talk with what's new. Like when we're in an editorial room, we can't just say, you know, TPLF's a terrorist group, or that, like that. We already know that. Like what's new today? You know, what's causing today's crisis? You know, what happened in Afar did not help the access. Now they're doing it through Abala. Like this international media is just so messy. I mean, some of it is true, some of it's not, some of it I don't know. So the best thing we could do is just talk about what we do know. We have more access to them, to these areas than they do. So if you can talk to people in Abala and really try to get more direct information, you're already doing more than they're able to get. In terms of are they not informed or not, you know, this is a structure. So it's a corporate media, like, so that means those people are tied to the government in some ways. They already know what they want to be said. So then the sources they give you, the UN, USAID, all that, say what they want to be said. And then the journalists use those sources because they're considered credible sources. So I think on a lower level, like on a journalist level, I don't think it's bad intent. I think they're just using whatever sources they have. And they don't really care that much. I mean, it's just one country, like out of 1 million countries in the world that they cover, right? There's specific journalists like New York Times, Declan Walsh, AP's Kara Anna, Nima El-Bagir, who seems to have left us alone, finally. They know what they're doing, right? They have an agenda, they're there to meet it. Everybody else is just kind of doing what they think is the truth. It's confusing. It's confusing. For someone who's not Habesha, it's actually really confusing, right? So I would just say, you know, if we're strong in our storytelling, we won't have to talk about them anymore. But it's going to take time to be able to compete on that level. Solution, I think the solution you were asking was about how to deal with the Western propaganda, right? The solution? Was that what it was about? Solution settlement or lemon?
What should be taken as a solution in order to counter their misinformation?
Okay, yeah. It's you counter it with just good information. Just very specific, very specific. It doesn't have to be big. Very specific. And then get it on Twitter. Get it on Twitter in English. Get it on Twitter in an easy way. 140 characters or a graphic. People, you know what's better than 140 characters? Pictures. Like, people are so basic. Like, you know, Instagram does really well. Why? Pictures, right? So if you can just, like, this, part of what we do in news is like you just put away your complicated brain, you process the complicated stuff, and just literally spoon feed people, like super simple. It can't be too simple, especially when you're talking about, you know, trying to get our story to the international media. We need to just say, here, look, like a number. Isn't that interesting? Like, it has to be that basic, because otherwise they're just not going to spend the time. Thank you.
I think we're now winding down to probably one or two. Is that okay, ሔርሜላ?
Oh yeah, sure.
Probably one or two.
I feel like I'm just
Okay,
talking
gentleman
too
at the far end there.
much. Sick of my voice.
And
Okay.
አመሰግናለሁ። ዮናስ እባላለሁ ከሪፖርተር ጋዜጣ ነው። ያው he told us you are good listener in Amharic, so
Yeah.
it's easy for me to speak in Amharic. So
ችግር የለም።
የኖሞር ሙቭመንት በተጨባጭ በትዊተር በሶሻል ሚዲያው ላይ ለውጥ እያመጣ ነው። በምንፈልጋቸው ናሬቲቮች ለዓለም ለማሳየት ብዙ አግዟል። ብዙ ለውጦችንም ለኢትዮጵያ አስገኝቷል። ግን እኔ ማየው ይሄ ዘመቻው ጥረቱ ግሎባል መሆን ይችላል ብዬ አስባለሁ በግሌ። ለምሳሌ የካሪቢያን ኮስችን አለ፣ የብላክ ላይቭስ ማተር ሙቭመንት አለ። ከነዛ ጋር ኢንተርኮኔክትድ ማድረግ ይቻላል። ጥያቄያችንን ግሎባል ማድረግ ይቻላል። እና ወደዚህ ሙቭመንቱን ለመውሰድ ምን ጥረት አለ ወይም ምን ታስባላችሁ? አንድ የኖሞር ሙቭመንት ቲምን መጠየቅ ፈልጋለሁ። ከዛ ውጪ የግላዊ ጥያቄ ማንሳት ፈልጋለሁ። ፓርቲኩላርሊ ስለ እናትሽ በልጅነትሽ ወይም ስታሳድግሽ ስለ ሀገር ፍቅር ምን ትነግርሽ ነበር? እንደገና ደግሞ ስለ እውነት ስለመቆም ለምሳሌ አንቺ ብቻሽን ነው ስትቆሚ ያየነው፣ ብዙ ተጋፍጠሻል ለእውነት በመቆምሽም። ስለ እውነት ለመቆም ምን ትነግርሽ ነበረ? እነዚህ ነገሮች እስቲ መልሽልኝ። Thank you.
Good questions. I'll start with the question about my mom and the love for country. We didn't talk that much about, where we're from, whether it's from Ethiopia or Tigray. I don't know. It just wasn't. I had that simate because I was born here, but we were just kind of busy learning the language, going through school. I loved I loved music. I loved Amharic, Tigrinya, Guaragnya, whatever. I love music from the beginning. You put on music, I'll start dancing. But beyond that, there wasn't, it was more focused on just people, there were good people in Mississippi that were different races from, different countries, Korea, China, India, Ghana, Nigeria. Like, it wasn't so much like your Ethiopianness is like so, different. It was just like people. Like, and then of course we had a lot of Habesha friends and family, especially when we moved to Tennessee. So I think that I would argue that my love for the country came because of my love for like just basic truths in humans to begin with. So because of that, when I saw Ethiopia being presented in such a dark way, in such a dark time, it just so happens I'm Ethiopian, and so I was paying attention, and I'm just like, I think that's wrong, right? If I knew enough about it, if I was connected to it, I would think I would stand just as strong, I think. There's something, I don't want to say we're special because I don't like that kind of like language, but we're blessed. There's something blessed happening in this country. And it's not to say it's not happening in other countries. I don't know. There's like a core like goodness in a lot of people. I know the culture can be a little bit complicated andande, and I think some of it is because people are trying to survive, and there's a little bit of a culture of just surviving, so maybe people are being different than they would normally be in a different time. But at the end of the day, I believe in the goodness of the people in this country, and it will come out more if the institutions are better, if healthcare is better, if education is better, so we can be free of all this like shikam, right? Like sometimes it's just like a cultural shikam. Why? Because it's about survival, and there's just there's people with a lot of money and a lot of people with no money. Like there's just that kind of society is not going to be best long term. So that's what I would say. And then because I was born here, I just love the language and the food and things just naturally connected like that. In terms of the truth and standing with the truth, I don't know. Like, I didn't think that hard about like what is gonna happen if I say this. I didn't think that hard. Because to me, ለረጅም ጊዜ ከሁማኒታሪያን ትግራይ humanitarian የሚባሉ ሰዎች ሰርቼ, like I gave so much of my time for free, my energy, my advice, all of that. So that's that. To me, I had every right to have my opinion. From about November to March, April, I gave a lot of my time to that cause, even though there was a lot of things I didn't agree with. So as soon as like I have the right to say something is what I thought. Again, the question was, is this worth the headache that is going to come with it? For a couple of months, I said, Mom, I'm going to say something. Tell you what, like, just please, just don't even bother. Like, you don't know the society. Like, it's not going to change, or it's not worth it. And then Mecharasha Lai, I think it all happened in a way that it just made sense to say something. And then, of course, it became way bigger than I thought. I don't know. Any minute my thing. If I really, really, really believe in something and it's this wrong, we're talking about people dying because of a lie. So I'm free. Thank God I'm a free person generally, relatively speaking, who lives in the United States. I live in LA. ብዙም connections ያለኝም like deeply with people from different political spaces. እኔ ካላልኩት ማን ይለዋል? Right? Who's going to do it? People in Tigray are going to do it? Like, I don't have somebody with a gun to my head, you know? Like, that's what I thought. If I was there as any as Zabinor, and there was somebody like me in the United States, and minim kalalu, it's a shame, because I don't want to be inconvenienced by all the attacks that are going to come. I still think it's worth it. It's definitely a headache, and it's affected a lot of things for me, but I would still do it all over again. Maybe I would be a little bit more softer about some of my language, but I still would say, I think, what I believe to be true. And then to your third question about the global movement with No More, I mean, there's a lot of people here from different places, like from the Caribbean, some came from the States, different parts of Africa. I hope you guys are talking to them and interviewing them and having them on your channels. I've been doing some connecting, but I could do more. The access is there. If you guys create content for us, we'll share it, right? It shouldn't always be like, what is No More doing to make this happen? If you guys give us content where you're talking to somebody from Kenya or Uganda, we'll use it. Like, if it's like usable, and then we'll add #No More to it. And that's a part of making it happen. Like, I don't think it should be that we are trying to feed the movements. Part of it has to go like both ways. Like, content is important. Content clearly, it's just, we're saying the same thing over and over again. Actually. So we just need more unique connections with different Pan-African stations, especially if you're doing English or Arabic. There's really no reason why not to make those connections. Thank you.
I think we've had quite an exciting and amazing time with insights and inspirations, especially from Hermela's part, as to how we can get our voices heard, what we can contribute in terms of all the issues that you've raised this morning. Hermela, thank you so very much, and thank you all guys again for coming and being here. Special thanks goes to Ato Theodros, who has made this happen. በጣም ነው የምናመሰግነው። great deal of generosity በካሽጎ በኩል እንግዲህ ይሄን ያህል እንትን ካደረገን እናንተ ከዚህ ትልቅ ስቶሪስ እንደምትሰሩ I think one very important issue is that they produce a story, but they just want to get to link to the international link. Where is the point of penetration into the international arena? የሚመስለኝ በእኛ ሚዲያ ፕሮዲውስ እናደርጋለን እንናገራለን ግን it doesn't get where it's supposed to get በእንግሊዝኛም ሊሆን ይችላል በአረቢክ ፍሬንች ግን እዛ የሚደርሰው እንዴት ነው የሚለው ነገር አሁን ጌትዌያችን ትዊተር ነው ለጊዜው ስፒኪንግ ፕራግማቲክሊ ትዊተርን እንጠቀም፣ አጭር ቪዲዮዎች፣ አጭር መልእክቶች የሚላለ ግን in more in a broader way ሌላው የኛ ፕሮዳክሽን እንዴት ነው እዛ ጋር ፔኔትሬት አድርገን እንዴት ነው እነሱ የኔን እኛን ሊሰሙን የሚችሉ የኛን ፐርስፔክቲቭ እንዴት ይወስዳሉ የሚለው ነገር still is going to be homework. If you have anything to say on that, what's the point of penetration into that mainstream media? What can they practically really do as of today, for example?
So I think similar to what we did with No More, the point of penetration is not directly to the mainstream media, it's through Twitter. So you make them see it because everybody's sharing it. So No More was not successful because we made CNN let us get on. They still it was really difficult, right? So Twitter is game changer. It is truly a game changer. I cannot emphasize that enough. So if you have a 15-minute interview, of course that's difficult to have someone listen to, but take a good minute or two and put it on Twitter, add hashtag no more, send it to a bunch of people. Everything takes so much work. Even with No More, I can't even explain to you how much work went into that because it requires so much detail. I have to write the tweet, I gotta do the research, I gotta make sure it's right. Everyone's doing so many things. So don't think that it's you produce the interview and you're done. Even when I produce interviews, I'm not done. If I do, I kind of have a following, so people will still look at it anyway. But to really get it exposure, I have to go in, edit, find that minute, take a quote from there, write it in text. So you're feeding them the video. Your title, there's even, if you put a title on it that's 4 words that says what the point is about. And then you add hashtag no more. You send it to everybody you know. Just be annoying. Be annoying until you get some exposure. If you believe in that content, just send it to me. Maybe I'll see it. Maybe I won't. Send it to Ethiopian American Development Council that is in Denver. Send it to all the accounts that you know and just keep sending it. One day somebody's going to retweet something, then you get a bunch of followers, a lot more followers. That video becomes conversation, and then that's huge if you do something like that. So don't think it's just you create it and then it somehow CNN's going to be we really like that video. They won't even look at what I've done and I've got some mainstream media experience. So just force it through Twitter, and that's one way you could do that.
Thank you very much. That really goes a long way. እናመሰግናለን በጣም ሁላችሁም መልካም ቀን ይሁንላችሁ. Thank you so very much.